The wild here doesn't whisper, it roars. Glaciers crack like thunder. Waterfalls carve paths through time. And in the middle of it all, she waits. Motor yacht unbridled. A sanctuary of warmth and refinement in the heart of Alaska's untamed frontier. Bears wander the shoreline. Whales breach on the horizon. Seals nap on drifting ice while you sip champagne on the aft deck. This isn't a cruise. It's a calling, and only the bold will answer. Now booking your next unforgettable charter. yachtunbridled.com or through your preferred charter broker.
Top of the morning, folks. It's Captain Liam here, Motor Yacht Unbridled. I'm currently in Alaska, but I've got a beautiful opportunity. I took an early morning to speak to Caroline Blatter. How are you, Caroline?
Good morning to you, or good afternoon from England. I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for taking the time. We're just talking about a morning routine of swimming for you over there at home.
Very lucky. There isn't an ocean around the house, but there's certainly an outdoor pool in the town I live in. So yes, I miss the ocean, but an outdoor heated pool in England is always a treat. So it's a good time to think and put the day ahead straight.
I think especially outdoor is special. Like, how long is it? 25, 50?
25 meters, absolutely. So we're very lucky. It's open from April when it's quite cool right through till October. And then they go into a sort of cold water swim when the temperature gets reduced to about 16 degrees.
Okay.
And I can still swim through the winter. Last year I managed till about January.
Okay, exactly.
Indoors for a few months before going out again. So it's an absolute joy. It really is. And actually, whether it's sunny or raining, it's beautiful. It's really.
I think we're both ocean lovers or water lovers, correct, Caroline?
Yeah.
When I grew up in Byron Bay, and I remember one of my youngest memories, I'd always be swimming. I went to do a dive course when I was like 14, my first dive course, and I went to do my medical, and the doc said, well, you've got a mild form of bronchitis. I can't approve you to dive. But if you swim all summer or winter, then you come back and do the same test, we may be able to pass you. So I went to a specialist. So I swam in this lake. It was a 10-meter pool that I'd go down to every day in winter. And I remember this pool going just and then at the end of the winter, I went and did the test and I passed. And that started my journey into diving.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was just that. There was that motivation of being told you can't do this. And I was like, I love this. I want this. This is my world, and then I'm 46 now and I'm in Alaska and I've got a trip coming up where they want to do diving. I'm like, perfect.
You can get
my mind. Yeah. So the water temperature is like 15, 16. So
is it really? Now it's
surprising. Yeah, very surprising actually. Like a lot of people were very hesitant to get in the water here, but 15, 16. That's winter Byron Bay. That's UK. It's quite surprising, Yeah. Obviously, the glacial flows, it drops down to zero. So, but I had a guest recently that gave me a good tip, and she said 1 minute for 1 degree. So if you're in the water from 1 minute, if it's 1 degree Celsius, spend a minute. If it's 2 minutes, 3 degrees, 3 minutes.
Interesting. It's certainly actually when you're doing laps, you certainly feel the temperature difference. I swim a distance and as the temperature goes down, you notice it's physiologically really interesting to watch the body, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so how it changes. But I'm reading a book called The Blue Mind that talks about the psychology of why we are attracted to water. What is it? The energies that water creates. Anyway, we're here to talk about
it's interesting.
Else.
Water and mountains.
We're here to talk about the Bible of yachting. Know me. I've traveled a lot around the world and, I always carry this on my bridge.
Oh, that's nice.
Tell me about it, Caroline. What was the start?
It's a long story. And we're putting together the 2026 Caribbean Guide. So that's a lot of work. The story behind it is we were on our own. I'm a physiotherapist by profession and fell in love with a yachty and moved from a London hospital in the 90s to work on board a boat with Andrew and roll on 10 years. We worked on we did some new builds, refits, always sailing boats. And by 2002, we were in the Caribbean on our own boat. We did the thing that everybody tells you not to do, which is buy a boat.
Oh,
we
no.
adored the ocean. And we had a 37-foot cruising boat and 2 children.
Beautiful.
And we did transatlantic with the children and
Oh,
ended
wow.
up in sailed from Palma
Yeah.
and we'd both done, Andrew'd sailed around the world. I'd done 4 transatlantics, and the transatlantic with the children was by far the most testing. And the sailing and the weather was the easy part. It's the entertainment. We had a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, and my nephew joined us, who was 7, with his father, who was actually one of Andrew's best friends. And Finn has gone on he's a Kiwi, and he's gone on to sail in the America's Cup. So,
Oh, wow.
had a good team on board and entertaining children. Our crossing was 23 days, and that was probably the most challenging of all.
Absolutely. And when you signed up for it, I'm sure you're like, this is the dream. This will be a wonderful trip. And then halfway through, you're like, all right, I've run out of things to entertain them with.
Absolutely. And for years on, we found little tiny Lego pieces to come in the bilges, which is what every time the boat moved, Lego fell. So by 2002, we were at anchor in our one particular harbour, which was most certainly Falmouth Harbour.
Yeah.
And Andrew was doing temporary yacht captain's work and writing for Boat International.
Okay.
And came up with several ideas for Boat International and said, I think there's a need for some form of recommended direct
services.
Internet was just beginning, but not really part of our yachting life, I suppose. And, we felt that there was something, we were going by the Michelin guide really, which is sort of stars, to say, we all know that there's all these services, but actually you get presented with one of these tiny little yellow pages in every island that you go to. And it's a list of people who've advertised, but you never know who is good. You don't know the story behind it. And he felt
they're outdated. That's the big one. A lot of times the old cruising guides that you'd go through, they're kind of outdated. So
Absolutely. And so Andrew felt there was this sort of thing, but it had to be on a recommendation only, which was sort of the basic ethos to say, okay, when we know good services, we're going to include them. And let's say that we need 3 recommendations for every service, and then we'll include them. And I'll never forget, actually, I was actually pregnant with our 3rd when we started the guide. And we had a tiny little dinghy that off he went in Falmouth Harbour and came back with the biggest of smiles, holding this check saying, somebody believed in me. They're taking the back cover.
Oh, wow.
That was the beginning. We put our savings into it. And the back cover of the Caribbean Guide is still the same business who've supported us all these years. On the inside, back cover, MPS in Antigua. Yeah.
Oh, shout out to MPS.
Another fantastic family-run business that is one of the biggest engineering firms in the Caribbean.
Oh, we worked with them when we were there at the Antigua Charter Show. That reminds me, we worked with them.
Big family. And so the first Caribbean Guide was, I think, just under 200 pages.
Yeah.
My number 3 son, Miles, was born in early October, and I was editing paper PDFs on my bed after delivering him so that we could go to print on the 15th of October. And that was the beginning of the journey. It's been a family-run business with yachties. We've learned an awful lot, who have been feet on the ground. Our strength is that we're feet on the ground research. We take these recommendations on board. There's lots of things we could do better. We listen to feedback that we get. We get negative feedback by email. Very strong on, not particularly now with social media, we don't spread the negative feedback around, but what we will do is drop people. So there'll be people that will not appear from year to year, and that means that something has...
Yeah. Well, you have to keep evolving and move with the feedback you've got,
Absolutely.
Stuff. I always say you got to close the loop. Doesn't mean it's over, even with crew on a yacht. Doesn't mean it's over. It just means we're closing the loop for now.
Exactly, absolutely. And what started as a Caribbean Guide a few years later, feedback from yachts was, we love the Caribbean Guide, but we don't stay here all year. We go to the Med, we go to the States. Where are those guides? And so we sort of grew with demand and ended up in our sort of peak, I suppose, of 2014 of print. We were printing about 21,000 books of the 5 different regions of the world.
And how do you do shipping? I mean, do you print them out of UK?
Biggest challenge. We've printed in various different places. They're now printed in the UK, and we only actually print the Caribbean Guide now. Everything has gone digital since COVID, and the way boats are now. What used to be difficult 15 years ago is totally different now, isn't it? So
It's hard. Well, people say print's done, like, I mean, maybe I'm old fashioned, but every time I go somewhere, I pick up my magazines and my newspapers. And there's something about it. The smell of newspaper, the information touches you different, I think.
I agree, Liam. I agree. And I think, the human brain, I don't think has actually changed. And I read a really interesting article that said when we are searching for something, it's so easy. We go into Google, we all do. And if you recognize one of the recommendations that come up, you'll click on it to follow that link. But it's quite difficult. You end up with different windows opening. Yes. And if you're anything like me, I'm suddenly finding I'm on a golf holiday somewhere or a ski holiday in the mountains. And I wasn't looking for anything of that. But somehow these different boxes have appeared.
And I do link in bio and all that. And I'm like, hang on, I've lost my purpose here. I was
need to go back again. Absolutely. And I think, certainly what I find and the feedback we've been given is when you know what you're sort of looking for, to open a book and suddenly find that there's 10 or 12 different services listed, you can very quickly find what you want. You can then go online after that. So I think there is still a need, particularly in the Caribbean. Every single island is a completely different country.
And that's what draws people to the Caribbean, I suppose. It's such a short 20, 30-mile run between islands. You've got Antigua. Antigua's obviously got a lot of history to you, but what's your kind of favourite area in travelling in the world? Because vicariously, I'm sure you live a little bit through the publication. You hear stories.
And, the contact we've made, there are, I think, most of us, aren't there? We love and we find our work challenging, and there are the work is hard work. And there's a lot of hours put into this. And yes, there are moments, but I think the yachting industry as a community, despite all the challenges that we come up with very regularly and very sadly and tragically, there is an underlying, some really super good people and a wonderful community of people who really care. Of course, there are some wild extremes, but there is in every walk of life. And there is a very special community, and something that has drawn, I think, or drew both Andrew and I to it and continued for me to continue this legacy, I suppose, is the sort of multinational, multicultural, multi-age. It's phenomenal.
Isn't it? Different generations. Really, we all kind of have this similar type of desire. It's we wanted to go to sea, or we want to see something. We want to engage with people on many different levels. And we have had some tragedies over the last 6 to 12 months, from passings to incidences to social media. We're going back to the publication. How have you seen the digital age change the way you look at the publication, the way you work with the publication, with social media and the access to information?
It's huge, Liam. And in all honesty, I find it difficult to keep up. And I think I put myself in someone like your shoes. And I think, or even, a young crew member, so people on board, and think, how do they choose? How do they know where to turn? There are so many different mental health platforms. There's so many people offering help with your CVs. There's so many recruiters. There's so many, it's just endless.
Yeah.
And that I find challenging. I think it's good to have choice, but I do think that it's challenging. Behind websites, we find you don't know who's behind it. You don't know if it's a bona fide business, is it? Is it just a one-man band doing a bit of pretending and talking much bigger than they really are? So certainly we find that actually this endorsement of the captain's recommended, the sticker that originally started and we now have digital, is really important, almost more so with the digital age than it used to be.
Yeah,
when
I agree.
Wasn't. So
it's like a validation. It's like this person has been vetted by 3 people who are well known in the industry, and like Jose Casanova. When I go to Puerto Rico with Jose Casanova, or I go to Panama, Alex Risi, and I'm just like, these are beautiful human beings that have done this for a long time, and they're not just in it for the business. There's more to it for them. There's an investment they're making in the yachting community that are trying to push it forward in the right direction. And that's kind of where I keep coming back to the book. I'm like, they're vetted, that that you can, and for me, it's an important book. I always push it to the heads of department, because every time we go to a new community or a new area, naturally the crew are always picking up their phones. Oh, I found something, and I called the florist up and I'm like, that's great, but you've got the answer here that's already been vetted, that understands the standard we're looking for. We don't need to reinvent the wheel every time,
Yeah. No, absolutely. And there's so much, there's so much still to come. We rely on the recommendations coming in from people so that we can follow them up. We get people approaching us all the time, and they still have to go through. It doesn't matter if they want to throw thousands of dollars at it. They really need those recommendations. And I think one of the biggest things that I'm proud of is that any service that is recommended will absolutely get a free listing. If we print that part we give them a free listing. They go online, they give a free listing. And I think one of the things that Andrew was very transparent about was how we make this work, which is advertising revenue. But just because you spend more money, it doesn't mean that you're going to be better. You absolutely list the services in alphabetical order in the guidebook. And that is predominantly how we feel, is that some companies don't have that marketing budget. Others do. And we so appreciate the support from everybody. And there's some companies there who could have easily marketed with us and they've had free listings for 20 years. So be it. We don't we appreciate it. So
it's also the information. We're talking about listings and a global network of companies that you work with. There's also the information when you read about a certain island. And that's kind of just as important, because you're going to, as a captain, a lot of captains think I know everything, but I'm a little bit more humble in my approaches. I'm here to learn and engage and really absorb as much as I can and present to the clients the best part of the information we have. And just the introductions you do to different countries is really spot on.
It's spot on. Nice bits appreciated. And we're trying to do it from we're not a lonely planet. There's so much information out there, but we're trying to do it from a yachting perspective to say, actually, follow these links, go and get some information from there. It may not be on our platform. We can't be one hits all. And it's really special. I love getting really special recommendations, whether it be from a chef who's going trans-Pacific and has found somebody in, Fiji who is growing microgreens and can prepare them for you before you get across there, to, I spoke to a really special yacht agent in Turkey this morning about some awful things that have happened over the weekend. And it's really special to have those people you can trust and communicate with, I have to say.
Well, it is getting harder and harder. We have these high net worth individuals coming to remote locations like Alaska, and there's zero, I'm not saying there's zero support, but it is very difficult to find reliable resources here that can support the type of thing we're used to. We have clients coming from places like Monaco that are used to kind of, every day having access to different things. We come to Alaska, you leave the dock and that's pretty much it for 7 to 10 days. You have to be spot on. So you have to know who you're working with. And we've got some great people we're working with. And you've given me some wonderful recommendations all the way from Alaska up. And everyone has just hit perfect,
I'm delighted to hear that. Yeah, no. And as you move from location to, sorry to interrupt you, Liam, as you move from location to location, I think one of the hardest things is to understand that each different place has got its own special rules and regulations. And I know up where you are, you can't just take the tender and build a fire on the beach, just keep everyone warm. It is not that place at all. And the cultural understanding, which is the beauty of boats, is also its biggest challenge. And you have got some enormous research to do beforehand so that you can, organize the cultural trip or get the proper food in because you've got someone who's got diet issues.
Yeah, exactly. I do apologize. The sun's just coming up now, so it's getting bright in the side of my face there. But we're in Cape at the moment. And you're right. In Alaska, it's Tongass National Park. The whole area is part of a national park system, which is a temperate rainforest. So it's important that number one for me is always protect the community, protect the environment, protect the crew. So you have to know the regulation and work with people. We're working with Alaska Luxury Tours, who's been great. We're working with Beneath Pacific. We're working, but I also work with all the authorities. And that's where I find the connections the greatest. You don't just always rely on the agent. You communicate as a triangle with the agent, the local authorities, and the vessel to make sure we're all crystal clear on how we're moving forward here. And that seems to be the path I've used and seems to work quite well. Because when issues arise,
you're an orchestra conductor, aren't you? And you need every part
Very
of
much
it
so.
to work.
Well, this is a big part of it. I've got to admit, I really I don't know why, but I've done this a lot. And as I age, I get more respect for the little things I've done. And books and publications like yours, I look back in my career, I'm like, I really have to give a lot of thanks to that. And you really saved a lot of times in my career, you know?
Well, I suppose we're the orchestra conductors because the thanks to all of you and the heads of department, because if we didn't we had a wonderful email quite a few years ago from someone to say, I just don't understand why you don't have more florists in St. Bart's, because the one that we've contacted through your book is too busy and can't help us. And I went back and I said, that's exactly why you need to give me the recommendations, because if we can have more recommendations, we can then endorse more people.
But actually, it is based on recommendations,
Yeah, so we do have feet on the ground, absolutely, but there are boats all over the place, aren't there? And we get those recommendations in. So it's a constant project and a constant work, and an absolute joy to have my eldest son now working with us too. So
that's what I was going to say. Tristan's now involved. I mean, I met him in Antigua Charter Show and he was there. How can the industry help? What would you like the industry to kind of help your publication, help itself? Provide recommendations is the best. You mentioned content.
One of them. It's definitely one of them. I'd also love to see people say, I'm a big one for saying thank you, not just complaining. And I think we live in a society where people are quite quick to complain. And I would love to see crew for services actually go on the platform and say, these people, regardless of whether they've got lots of logos and pictures or whether they're just a simple sentence of a free listing, you can still go on there and review them and say, thank you. You guys really looked after us. The review sections, I think, are really helpful for people looking. But it's a lovely way of saying thank you to the service that actually, we found you on this platform and you've been great. You've really looked after us in whatever capacity that is.
Yeah, and it's value for the person themselves. Like when we worked with an agent in Costa Rica, and the Costa Rican agent was like, can you please just give me a review on Superyacht Services Guide? And I was like, of course, no problem. We had a good experience and I'll be transparent. And it means a lot to them because they're still growing as a business.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't realize that the yachting industry is seasonal. So the yachts go season to season, but the people that are there are relying on usually 3 months or 2 months of peak season to get their annual income. And that's what people forget a lot of times.
Absolutely. And the yachting industry, the beauty of it is this enormous diversity. And, you might have a family-run 70-foot sailing boat with one captain on board periodically who is a crewed yacht, and they're using services to the big guys, right at the top, who've got rotation and 40 crew on board and 2 captains and et cetera, et cetera. And the same goes for services. We've got the all singing, all dancing services that have got big stands at Monaco, and they're on LinkedIn and they're all over the place with amazing websites. And then just as important services, we've got these seasonal services, and they will offer you an amazing service when you need it, but they don't even have a website. We are their presence online, and it's a telephone number and maybe an email. And that's the diversity geographically and in size, I think. And I don't want that to change. That's the beauty of the industry.
Well, you've got a local dealer in Antigua there that you've got crew are looking forward to, getting some roti when they get to Antigua. So you've got to cover all aspects of it. There's guests, there's crew, there's,
Absolutely. And we do find actually that it's not just the super yacht industry that use our books. There's a huge amount of cruise, the guide and the platform. There's a big cruising fraternity because ultimately we all want a good service, don't we? Whether it's me finding something for my car at home or you find your family trying to find something for your children. We all want a good service. So actually the cruising fraternity absolutely use the platform a lot.
I think it started back with cruising boats, small sailboats that would go to different islands in the Caribbean, and they'd be telling another sailor, they'd be writing little books, and then you'd get references, and then it's manifested into this, which is wonderful. Going forward, we talked about big yachts. It is surreal what is happening in the yachting industry with yachts that are 100 meter plus in the same cruising areas as Antigua and get out now. It's quite unique. Where do you see the industry going in 5 years? I mean, we're still going to have all the variety.
Good question. Where it goes and my hopes may be different. I don't know.
Okay.
But I hope there's a cap to an extent in terms of, do we need bigger and better? Some of these yachts are becoming almost mini cruise ships.
Yeah.
And that fine line. And I think some of these harbours can't take bigger boats and can't take more volume. So I hope in a way we become a little bit more accountable in every capacity. And that means from not flushing out into our beautiful blue ocean, looking after the people who work on the boat. I think that's probably one of my biggest. I think as a mother, I come as a parent. Some of these young crew could be my children.
Yeah, very much so.
Totally. And, having worked on board with Andrew as a yacht captain, I also know the challenges that come. So I think the industry's got a lot it's come a long way in even the 30 years that I've been involved. It's come a huge way, but it needs to go further.
Yeah, we are seeing a lot more communities. We're seeing a lot more transparency. We're seeing a lot more, engagement, different people, but we're still kind of not seeing the unity that I think is important for sustainability. The unity is not just environmental, the unity is mental health, the unity is financial support or tax support, because it's a career, yachting. And I think there's still this undertone that you come in for a couple of years, make money, go home. But everyone's realizing that, no, this is a career and it's a beautiful career. And, we have a pilot on board who's a female at the moment. And she's like, this is a great space for females. I said, well, it is a good space, providing that the people who are in the heads of department and leadership roles respect that and have oversight. And that's kind of my leaving note is I really wish this industry should push some more external oversight, whether it's from agencies like Cayman Island or recruitment companies, management companies. You've really got to take out, and that's why I like corporate structure. You got to take out the middleman almost, which is myself. Unfortunately, the reality is that people like me in my role or chief officers or chief engineers, we're going to really have that oversight to protect the junior crew, because that's what I think is the sustainability of the industry.
I do. And also have, mentorship and advice for people at your level. And, we don't know everything. I can only describe it as a parent. I don't know everything. And there has to be an open forum and an allowance to allow you to be vulnerable, I suppose, and to ask questions. You have them, you can actually ask questions. And, we have this as a parent, I have the battle with social media. I think the yachting industry has a battle with social media.
Yeah.
You look at going in all these different groups, all these different platforms. Some of them, I don't think they're positive at all for the industry. And I think that's a really sad place. And we sort of need to be accountable a little bit on that too.
Very much so. It's hard to read. It's only the last year and a half I've got involved in social media. I've always kind of focused. Right now the goal is to create a charter program for Unbridled, and we've successfully done that on the East Coast and now the West Coast. So we're looking forward, with exposure for that. But what I've seen with the social media is so many people are quick to jump on little things, jump on things. And I'm a bit more old fashioned in the way I don't react and just, like I look at people like David Attenborough, it's the journey of his life or the long-term effects of something are more important than the short-term reactions to something.
Yeah.
But I think it's a beautiful industry. It's a beautiful space. I think it is growing quick. That's why oversight's important, I think. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of reaching out to the management companies and saying, check in with me, check in with the crew. Like, go not behind my back. We are all one. And I think and now with crew agencies, I'm really pushing them to say, you've just placed a crew member on the yacht, Unbridled. Can you please call? And, it's confidential information between you two. Doesn't have to involve me, but make sure they're comfortable. Make sure they've got access to calling their family. Make sure they've got access to personal, time and space and fitness, things like that. So that's kind of my personal. This is more about the books. This is more.
And, and I think, Liam, also because super yachts and the yachting industry is an industry of wealth, or it's deemed that way. I don't think everybody is. We certainly aren't of super yacht material, but it's deemed that way. Once the dollar sign starts dangling, it attracts an awful lot of people. And I think that's where we can end up with sort of the cowboy mentality. And we need to harness that, and make sure that the good and the positive shines, because there is so much good. And I think we often only hear the negative, but there are some amazing captains, there's amazing crew, there are phenomenal owners, there are programs that I know who've stayed with the same crew for such a long time. And it's a
beautiful
recipe that works. Absolutely. It really is. Very lucky. And it's
some wonderful companies ashore as well that support us. And that's the. So how can people get a hold of you, Caroline? I mean, how can they get a hold of the company or yourself to provide the references and the recommendations they need?
Just go on to superyachtservicesguide.com, and we've got the recommendation links at the bottom, and all our contact details are there. And, it's been an absolute privilege of an industry to work with. And having had the roller coaster of our life with, as many people will know, that Andrew was ill and we lost him a few years ago. The industry has stood by us, and that's been so lucky, because I wouldn't have been able to be the mother that I am and to care for him through his dying days had we not had the industry and the backbone behind us. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. So
it's a strong industry. When situations happen, that's when you see the value of the relationships you've built, and you reach out from around the world, people you've met 10 years ago that have experiences, and they're here to support you through these challenges.
Absolutely. And for that, I have huge respect. Totally. I was very lucky to have feet on the ground at the end of May. I went down to Grenada to do a week's research. And was such a privilege, because I'm normally based at working from home and running the show. And we lost our cruising boat in Hurricane Ivan of 2004. And I hadn't been since then. And it was such a privilege to go and see the services that some of them even remember me when I was crew, but remember us as family, and are still there. And the island is growing in a very special way. And that was really lovely.
I love Grenada, actually. I love the west coast of Grenada, cruising up there. It's like not many anchorages per se, but that west coast where the little people come out fishing with the little, plastic bottles and the fishing lines, the tunas that flow down on the rowboats. It's a really special place.
It is. And isn't the Caribbean so varied? I hope you went and swam in waterfalls and did everything that Grenada had.
And the spices, all the different spices there in Grenada, and the callaloo soup. And I pretty much, one of my favorite soups, the callaloo soup, for some reason.
For you. Yeah, I do.
I think because you can't eat, like when you look at the vegetable itself, you look at the leaf, it's really prickly. Yep. But it's the process they go through. Because the first time I tried the leaf. Being a traveler, I'm like, I'll try the leaf. And it's like, really itchy.
Yeah.
And then you have to process it into a soup, and it's delicious.
Yeah, absolutely. Each island has got, maybe I'll sail them again.
Exactly. All right, Carol. Well, thank you for your time. It has got the unbridled. If you need to reach out in DMs and all those messages on the social media and Instagrams, if not, just pick up a phone and give one of us a call.
Thank you. Have a good day, Liam. Thank you very much.
If your brand belongs in the heart of the yachting world, this is where it happens. Yachting International Radio reaches over 1 million yachting professionals and enthusiasts every month, with 77 million impressions, 220,000 social followers, and 74,000 podcast subscribers. Our hosts are insiders, crew, captains, CEOs, trusted voices shaping the industry. This is targeted, high-impact advertising in a luxury niche. Visit yachtinginternationalradio.com/advertise. Your audience is already listening.